Welcome everyone to Advent of Code with Pandas. This is day 11. So here's our input data. We have a list of several monkeys. Each monkey has the same attributes underneath it. Each monkey is given a list of starting items, and then the monkey is going to act on this item and then pass it on to one other monkey. All right, so the way it works is, for instance, in this monkey, the first item is 77. You're going to get any operation. So you're going to pass this number into the operation as old. So we'll do 77 times 11. Then we're going to see if it's divisible by 5. We're going to test it. If it is, we're going to pass that number on to monkey 1. We're going to append it to the end of monkey 1's list. If not, we're going to append to monkey 5's list. And we're going to go through each one of these items and then take that result and append it to the next monkey. And there's more to the problem, but that's the gist of it, and that's how we get started. And then we're going to move on to monkey 1, iterate through all of these one at a time, and then pass those on to the next set of monkeys. All right, so how can we use pandas to read this in? Well, you'll notice that every row has a colon, so I'm going to use that as my separator. I'm going to set this skip initial space to true. So what this does, any space at the beginning of a value will just get ignored. It doesn't matter if it's the first value or second value, it's going to skip that initial space. This skip rows allows me to skip rows anytime this is true. So this will be the row number. If it's divisible by 7, I will skip. So I'm not going to read in the monkey rows. That's what this does. I don't need them. All right, so let me go ahead and run this, and you'll see that every 5 rows is a monkey. Right, so there's 5. That's the first monkey. This is the second monkey. This is the start of the third monkey, and so forth. This is just going to get the first 5 values of the label column. I'm going to use this to relabel the data. This is just a little bit of cleanup. I'll show you where this comes in a second. All right, so here's where sort of the magic comes to reorganizing this data. So it's nice that I have all this, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create 8 columns, one for each monkey that has the instructions. So you can see all monkeys' instructions in one wide table, not a long table. So I'm just rearranging the data over here. So let me show you what I've done. The first thing is I'm going to relabel this axis over here as zeros, or just starting at 0 and moving up. This is just another way of grouping the data. So you can see here, this is monkey 1, this is monkey 0, and goes all the way up to monkey 7, so the 8th monkey. I'm going to reset this. I'm going to make it into a column. I'm doing that so I can use the pivot method. So this is where I really rearrange the data. So the index, the new index will be the label. So I'm going to put this in the index. These all repeat, right? So these repeat every 5. These instructions will be the value. So I'm going to just be stacking these instructions horizontally, as you'll see. The index is just used as the column names. So let's just do that. So all I've done is rearrange the data. I haven't changed the data in any way. So now I have 8 columns. These are the instructions. And then here is the label for that. The last thing is just to the original label order like this. So just as what was seen in the, in the initial reading of the data, right? So I'm just using those same initial 5 rows of data, the order. All right. This will be explained a little bit later, but I'm reading in every number over here that is in the test row, and I'm going to multiply it. I'm going to take a product of it. So I'm going to multiply all these together. This is to get sort of a common sort of like denominator when I do this operation so my numbers don't get any larger. And this is really for part 2 of the problem, but this helps out. So all I've done is multiplied 5 times 17, 2, 7, and so forth, and I got this large number. All right. Now I'm going to go through one by one and create a function for each monkey. So each function, or each monkey will have its own function that determines what to do with each starting item. Right? So I'm going to use all the information in each column and create a function. All right. So you'll see that I'm going to apply this function and return a function for each column. So that's what this apply method does. It's going to go through here, one column at a time, and create a function for each column. All right, so what is it going to do? in each one, right, it's going to get the operation. I'm going to split it on the equal sign. I don't need this part. I really just want this. This is the part of the operation I want, so that's what I get. That's what this 1 over here is. That's the second item after the split. So I'm going to get the operation. I'm going to save it to op. Div is this number right here, so I'm just extracting this. That's the last value, and I'm going to convert to an integer. If true is this number. If false is this number. So I'm just getting each piece, each relevant piece from that column. All right, now I'm going to create a function and I'm going to return this function. All right, so this function is going to take in this initial value right here. And what I'm going to do, this is pretty interesting. I read in the operation as a string. So I'm going to use the eval function. This is a built-in Python function that takes strings and evaluates them if they were code. So I'm going to substitute in the operation, which in this case is old times 11 right here. It creates a anonymous function that I can actually call over here. So I've used the eval to actually formally create it as a function. I'm going to pass in val. So this is like passing in 77 right here. And then this is something I didn't mention before, but in part 1, we're going to divide it by 3. So when I first create these functions, I will use 3 over here. So in addition to the operation, you divide it by 3. And then I'm going to take the remainder with this product over here. Now, this is important for part 2 because the numbers, if you'll see, if you keep calling these hundreds of times, which we'll do in thousands of times, you keep multiplying by 11 or taking the square of a number, these numbers will get very, very, very large and will basically be impossible to work with and become so slow that your computer will not be able to complete the operation. All right, so that's what this does. I've just sort of done this division by all of these numbers and just got the remainder. So the maximum will be this, which will much more easily fit in memory and be able to, calculate make the calculations even possible. All right. Then I just implement this if statement. So if it's divisible by div, that's what I got here. If it's divisible by this number, then I'm going to append it, the item. They call it the worry level. So the worry level is the result of this operation. I'm going to append it to the next monkey. And I'll show you where I get all items from in a bit. So all items, I'm just getting... It's just a list for each monkey. So that's all that is. If true is just that monkey's number, right? So that's the monkey's number, right? Either 1 or 5 if it's false. And I'll append it to that monkey or this monkey. All right. Okay, so that's what I do here. So I'm going to create a function, a list of functions. So each monkey will have its own function. For the first part, this div down will be 3, so I'll divide it down by 3. So that creates a list of functions. This all items is, so notice I'm going to go through this row and just create a list from it. I'm going to use eval again. So I'm going to actually place this inside of a string. And in that string, I will have a square bracket. So I'm just going to put whatever contents are here and force it to be a list. So here's all items. Right here, it's a series of lists. So pretty cool. I was able to use eval again for this. All right, so these are each of the monkey's items. Now they are integers. They are not strings anymore. This counter, this is actually how you get the solution. So here I've made a counter that has the same index as the monkeys, and what we're going to do is count how many items they go through. So in this first iteration, this monkey 0 will go through 6 items. Okay, so we need to count how many items each of the monkeys goes through. That's what we're keeping track of here. Notice we don't know how many the next monkey will go through because these items will get appended to the other list down here. So we don't know just from our original what's going to happen. All right. So we have our items, we have our functions, and I just redo them here just because I reset. This is the same thing. I just reset them again here because we're going to call this multiple times, and I just need everything to reset to the beginning. All right, so the first part says we're going to do 20 rounds of this. So we're going to go through, one round is going through each monkey's items, and that's one round. So during the round, right, this is where the magic happens here, is I'm zipping together the functions and the items. So each set of items will be displayed with each of the, or be matched up with the correct function for that monkey. So I'm going to increase the counter by the number of items in that monkey's list right there. So while there are still items, I'm going to pop the first one. So it's going to go through each one at a time. So I'm going to take it out of the list. I'm going to pass it into the func. So for that monkey's function, I'm going to pass it in whatever value that is. So func over here is this, right? It's going to pass it in here, figure out the worry level, determine which one to pass it in. So this is a global variable, all items. All right, so it's going to do it 20 times. And this is how many items each monkey went through. So I'm just displaying the counter. And what we want to do is return the top two, the product of the top two. So I'm just going to get n largest, multiply that by 2. The second part, so that's part 1. Part 2 is going through this 10,000 times, which is impossible unless you use this divide of the prod. So you have to sort of use this as like a denominator of sorts, or else the numbers will just get way too large. So here are those, and I just multiply that together. So sorry, I did this wrong. I need to do divide, div down, make it 1. So in part 2, it is 1. That's why I have a variable here and not hard-coded it, which is why I was getting the wrong answer. So that's the only thing you have to change. Change that to 1, and you'll get the right answer there. All right, so that's a really long one. Still some cool Pandas tricks. Probably not the best, tool for this problem, but yeah, lots of Pandas tricks, and you can still do it for the most part using Pandas. All right, so that is day 11 with Advent of Code.